So the Jerusalem issue has to be tackled separately, or the borders, the refugees issue.
Right.
These are all very contentious issues, and they've realized that it is better to take up one by one, step by step, and build confidence. That is the whole idea.
Then what can be the starting point of these negotiations?
The starting point, already the president, that is number one. Although Netanyahu says once the talks get underway, we will step by step release the 100+ prisoners. Secondly, it could be the settlements.
Okay.
What are the settlements on which Israel is not willing to give up? A, B, C, they have divided these settlements. A, there is no, they will be part of that. In lieu of those settlements, we are willing to give territory, consider giving territory in other parts.
Okay.
Number two, it could be the authority of the Palestinian Authority extending beyond the zones as per the Oslo agreement.
All right.
Yeah. Then the security forces, the borders, what the Palestinians can import and export, so on and so forth. As the EU has recently banned the use of its aid to the
more difficult to reach a solution because the players this time are more difficult. Benjamin Netanyahu is known to be an extreme. Government is, farther to the right, and the whole coalition government is going to make the scenario more difficult for the peace talks to come to any.
Those concerns are there. In fact, one of his coalition partners, a Jewish Home Party, says that the state of Palestinian statehood. Those are extreme positions which are articulated for a certain political audience. But you also have to see that the release of prisoners, a list of prisoners, 104 prisoners, which Netanyahu. When Palestine was given a non-member observer status in the UN, Israel declared that it would set up 3,000 more settlement steps. They realized that these are belligerent steps, and more territories could be overrun by extremist elements. So they'll, I think, finally sit down, look at all this broad matrix of the, do a SWOT analysis, and 50% of territory which they have already occupied in the West Bank, and some of it, like Professor mentioned, they would, and the resolution 242 of the United Nations, which and swap, that is basically the crux of which the main point, central idea which informs all the peace deals. So they would be looking at land, hammer out the procedural issue for the peace talks, and then we'll take it step by step, issue by issue.
But what about this whole question of Israeli occupation? We understand the entire Arab League had offered to Israel once a peace initiative in which Israel would get full normalization of relations with the entire Arab world in return of occupation of the Palestinian territory, if it could abide by international law, that is. It seems Israel is not ready to compromise here.
See, there are many issues. The water resource, the Sea of Galilee, that is the water resource which is to the north, which is initiative really has to be worked out by the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis.
Okay, we'll talk about can the US be an impartial negotiator in the peace process. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Insight. We are talking about peace talks between Israel and Palestine. Dr. Pasha, let's look at the role of the United States here. Can we really an impartial player in the entire negotiations, looking at its association with Israel?
It will be very difficult to acknowledge the word impartial. It has been giving economic aid, military aid, diplomatic, political support. Israel lobby in the United States is very important. No American administration can ignore or work without the cooperation of the Israeli lobby. is a very important factor in the American administration, and the fact the official aid comes to Israel, but also unofficial. Kind of what you asked, whether it can be impartial, the answer is a blunt no. But still, it is America alone which can. American guarantees, economic guarantees, military guarantees, security guarantees, which will matter to the Jews of Israel, and it is American credibility, involvement in the talks, which is important, and the Americans would listen, the Israelis would listen by and large to the American. Promise the Israeli government that they would take care to compensate what they have spent on building them, or the removing of infrastructure, or stationing of peacekeeping forces. They can look to join the negotiation. And Kerry, for no good reason, he has involved himself so deeply, apart from the national interest of the United States position of mediating between these two parties, because now the Palestinians also have come to look upon the Americans as an important player. Whether it is economic aid, they will promise
the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah, authority, or security also. Yasser Arafat and other Palestinian leaders have been asking for United Nations force or multinational force. Two groups, Israelis and the Palestinians. So the Palestinians also will rely in American assurances, guarantees, because Israel also wants guarantees. So in that way, the Americans have assumed upon themselves a very onerous responsibility. Although I am cautiously optimistic, because as you said, there is a very long history of American involvement in the have been involved, and if you measure, it has been step-by-step progress. So I don't expect all Washington talks, but at least the agenda for talks and identifying what are the areas of compromise America can offer, because both have taken their own peace plans, and the Americans also act as a buffer between the two, where compromise is possible.
But Professor Pasha, do Palestinians really have reason to be optimistic, because there are years of Israeli occupation and 20 years of these so-called American-sponsored negotiations which have yielded them precious little?
Well, honestly,